Hello and welcome to All for United. We are back once again. If you've come over from the women's channel, lovely to have you here. And if you haven't, it's great to have you here too. We are here to preview Manchester United against Everton. It's another big game, another 3 points potentially, and we're all really looking forward to it. We've managed to get ourselves once again another opposition fan in, and we managed to get this fan in, and he's just below us. And it says Toffee Blue Cast underneath there. And we asked what his real name was. And of course, as is the going rate on this show, his name is Dan. We've got so many Dans. Dan, lovely to have you here. How you doing, sir?
See, it's I'm on mute there. All good, mate. Not too bad. Getting ready for this big game coming up. And thanks for asking me to come on your show.
No, thanks for joining us, mate. Always much appreciated. It's much better we find when we've got an opposition view in as well. And sitting over there in the other corner as well, we've invited him back on, so he must be doing quite well. It's Andy Bean. How you doing, sir?
All good, yeah. Same as Dan. Looking forward to the game. I do like a nice early kick-off on a Saturday, so, you know, saying that unless we lose and then the weekend's totally ruined, is it? But fingers crossed.
Positives and its negatives, that's for sure. And of course, just over there, my right-hand man on the left-hand side is Mr. Danfield. How are you, sir?
I'm not looking forward to the game as much as these two from the look of it. Got people coming and telling me all week how much they're looking forward to playing Man United, which is not a good sign, is it? So a few Everton fans give me shit already.
There we go, straight in. So yeah, it's going to be one of those massive games, and it's big at both ends of the table, which is quite important. So, Danfield, we'll throw it out to you to begin with. We've spoken a bit about team news and those sort of things, but you said you weren't really looking forward to the game. What is it in particular that's got you worried already about a fixture like this? Do you feel like this is a banana skin? Do you think it's one that we could potentially walk away from without the 3 points?
It's one of those games where everything on paper would suggest that Man United should win. Everton aren't in great form. They've had a lot of draws in, I think, one win in the last 14. Teams have got at them. And then it's Old Trafford. Do you know what I mean? Everything points to a home win, but it's just got the potential to go absolutely wrong in so many different ways. We've seen the players have come off too. Well, we've got a big week or 2 weeks anyway. We've got Liverpool coming up in the FA Cup too. Just where the club's at, what we're seeing at the minute. I'm not overly confident going into any game at the minute. Even though we've won quite a few games in the last 6, I'm not convinced by the performances. And honestly, I feel like someone like Sean Dyche has really got the wherewithal to make it really uncomfortable for us. So I don't think it should be taken lightly at all. Fingers crossed the lads can come out fighting a little bit, but I fully expect Everton to be up for it. So that's my little bit of concern. I do feel like they're going to be up for it.
I mean, you'd expect them to be up for it. You know, when you're down there in the bottom half of the table, it's not an easy thing to do. Andy, from your point of view, would you say playing against somebody like Sean Dyche, we know how hard it can be to break down his team sometimes, and we're not necessarily at the moment full of firepower. We've got a terrible goal difference, the worst in the top 10, I think, with 2 under still. If it was a goal score, would be without doubt the best in the top 10. But unfortunately, it's a different type of ball. What do you reckon, Andy? Are you confident? Do you feel like there is still a good chance we're going to get it? Or have you got these nagging concerns as well that we're just not quite going to get it at the races?
Yeah, for me, I think it's a little bit like Dan says. Everton aren't in the greatest of forms, so they're going to beat United, aren't they? I mean, it's just how it's set up, isn't it? But for me, it's a must-win game at Old Trafford. It's never easy against Everton. Whoever their manager is, it's always a tricky game. But for me, you know, it's just about the performance in it. I think if there's a performance there, I think we've got enough on the park to beat these. But if we dip like we did against Fulham, then they're more than capable to turn us over. So I'm a bit in the middle. It's I wouldn't say confident. I wouldn't say overly negative about it, but we'll see.
So, Dan, this must be music to your ears. I mean, are you walking into a game this weekend, and do you feel like everything is in place for you to potentially nick the 3 points and help distance yourself even further from those relegation spaces? Because you've got two lads here chatting about it, don't seem very confident at all.
It's a possibility that we could. That I look to try and get 3 points out of this game, but the way Everton are playing at the minute, we are drawing a lot of games. I mean, we've drawn 5 in our last 8 games. We're playing really well, defending really well, but we're not clinical and we're not putting the ball in the back of the net. So when you're watching us, we're creating loads of chances, but we're not scoring or we're not staying ahead like last game. So Everton ain't playing well at the minute, and we're looking for this to be the game where we bounce back because, like you've just said, we are at the bottom. So it's okay, keep getting draws, but it's 3 draws that equals 1 win. So we need to try and get a win under a belt. So you're coming up against an Everton here where it could go against us, and because we're not doing it, we get even less confident and you smash us. Or this could be our break, and this could be the game that gets us that win before a very long break. We've got a really long break after you as well, because obviously the game got cancelled against the Shite. So yeah, so it's I don't know. I think it's 2 teams that are a bit, don't know, if you know what I mean, because these 2 ain't that confident. I'm not that confident, but it means that because we're all not that confident, it's a game that's up for the grabs.
100%, and that should 1,000% really be a thing that makes it a good game to watch more than anything else. And let's be honest, I think we're all waiting for a good game to watch. That would be really pleasant for both of the sides. So, Dan Field, we're sitting here talking about the team. We've spoken about the team so many times, and that will happen when you do previews and reviews. But it's a chance that Højlund and Maguire might be back in. I saw something on social media somewhere that Højlund was with a fan. And he said he wasn't training yet, and they said, "Oh, you're going to be in for the match." And he's like, "Well, don't know yet. We'll see." So there's not really much there, but it looks like it's a possibility. He might potentially be there. Of course, Rashford and Evans both had knocks at the weekend as well. What do you see would be the ideal lineup and the ideal formation tactically to go at an Everton side who, it's been mentioned by Dan, their run so far, but I think if my maths has worked, they're 10 games without a win in the Premier League. It's all been through draws that they've got the points that they have got. So do you feel there is a particular way that we could try and exploit the fact that they're not picking up those results at the moment?
I don't know. It's such a difficult question, to be honest. I was looking at the goals for, goals against stuff. They've conceded less goals than we have, and they've scored less goals than we have, and it's just got 0-0 or 1-0 real all over it. What I don't want to see, because we've got such big game come up against the Shite ourselves, we don't need to be risking Højlund against Everton. We don't need to be risking Rashford. Don't risk Maguire if he's not fully fit. Just put out a team of players that are good in the positions that they play in, and hope that we've got enough to tactically beat them. I just don't want to see another weekend of Amrabat playing left back, Bruno Fernandes playing right mid, Rashford playing up front. Just do something where the players are in the positions where they're good at playing, they tactically understand what they're doing, and realistically, we should have enough then to beat them, even if we may have to start a youth player or 2. I just don't want to see the same as what we've seen over the last few weeks. I personally think the top 4, top 5 is gone. We've still got quite a few tough games coming up, as well as Arsenal. I think we've got second to the last game end of the season as well. So that's going to be a tough game. We've seen tonight that Brighton have been beaten 4-0, so that's going to cause issues anyway for the 5th place Champions League spot. So it's a case for me of maybe easing off in the Premier League a little bit and giving everything for the game against Liverpool in the FA Cup, because it's the last chance to win a trophy. And as we've said many times on this show, people disagree, but I would much prefer to be lifting the FA Cup this season than finishing 5th. So there isn't a particular lineup, to be honest. I think it's going to be the same as what I don't really want to talk about it too much, because I say the same every single bloody week. It's going to be whatever he considers the strongest lineup with a mixed match of players in positions that he probably shouldn't play, and then he'll hope that they've got enough to get it over the line. For me, just get Garnacho on the left, play Ahmed on the right, stick Charlie McNeil up front if you have to. I'm not really bothered too much. Just start getting players back into natural positions and see what happens on the day. But no, I don't think there's any change in Ten Hag's mind. I think he's going to do what he does.
Simon's saying he'll be grateful if you get 6. No offense, it's time to consolidate.
Well, to be honest, looking at the table, the lowest we could really finish is about 10th, 9th. And what's the difference between 10th, 9th, and 6th?
4 places.
Yeah, but it's money. Yeah. Do you want to play Europa Conference League next season?
Listen, I'll
It's
say
not
whatever
for me.
at the end of the day. I know that you weren't a fan of it. I still didn't understand these people that were saying we don't want to play Thursday, Sunday, as if that's any different from playing Wednesday, Saturday, or Tuesday, Saturday.
I think it's more the competition, in it.
Yes, I mean, you see, you just getting above your station. Oh, we don't want that one. But there we go. Andy, would you go along with what Dan's just said there? Do you roll about thinking that we should just give up effectively on the Premier League, or are you more, what's the word you're looking for? Are you a bit more competitive? Do you think we should still be trying to hope that teams above us might slip up and do the best that we can do? What would you do? Would you risk Hoyland, or would you just go, do you know what, we'll leave it for this one and save them for the FA Cup?
Yeah, for me, people like Hoyland, Maguire, I wouldn't bother with them in this game. I think there's no knock on Everton. I think even with Lindelof at left back, Evans centre back, we should have enough to keep them out with what they've got. I definitely wouldn't have Rashford going through the middle because that's awful. I'd have him back on the wing, have Garnacho back on the right, maybe even put Forson on, give Ahmad a go. I don't know. But yeah, I think the league's gone, like Dan says, but I think we've got enough to win this game even with that lineup.
And he's saying teams looking to play against United to get on a good run of form should be like me wanting to fight Prime Mike Tyson, but it's more like when Roy Keane waited for months to see Alfie Haaland again, who ends up getting injured. You're not wrong. Dan, from an Everton point of view, you've got Dele Alli out still, you've got Dan Juma out. There's the opportunity that Idrissa Gueye might come back in. He's got to be tested, obviously, before the game. For your side, how do you feel that you might line up, and where do you see any possible weaknesses in the Manchester United side that you guys might be able to exploit to, as I say, get off of this it's a poor run that you're on at the moment in the league?
I think we'll go for our problem is the right back position, because we've got like 3-4 players that can play the right back position. So cemented Pickford in goals. Left back, we've got Mikalenko, who's playing really well for us. He's a guarantee. Our centre-back partnership, we've got 2 of the best centre-backs, in my opinion, in the Premier League. And I know that's probably because I support Everton, but they really are good. Tarkowski and Branthwaite. Branthwaite, he's the man. Branthwaite is sensational. I can't believe we've landed on him. He's a proper diamond. He'll get the call up for England, he will. And if he gets a chance, he'll take it. So Branthwaite and Tarkowski, really good. That's what we are defending well. Like, it sounds crap when you say we haven't won 1 in 10. But like I say, we've had some really hard fixtures. City twice, Tottenham twice. Yeah. And we've drew 5 in our last 8. We played Brighton, drew against them as well. So we haven't been losing. No. It's not like we've been getting beat. We've just been drawing. So Mikalenko, Tarky, Branthwaite. The right back is the problem, because we've got Coleman just come back. So he's an option. We love him. But obviously, he's getting a bit older, but we still love him because he does the job. Ashley Young can play there, but he's been playing more midfield because he makes mistakes there. Then we've just recently, because they was injured, put Godfrey there, and he's been doing the job as well, but he's not that good in the air. So that is the spot, the right back position, that we don't know who we want to put there. And that is a bit of a weakness for us in that right back position, because I think if you're not sure who to put there, then obviously someone's not earning that position, are they? In the centre of midfield, there's questions. James Garner's gone a bit quiet, but I really like James Garner from you. You know him as a Man United ex-player. Mm-hmm. I think he's got loads of talent, but he's gone a bit quiet in games. Onana, I love him, but some Everton fans ain't sure about him because he goes quiet in a couple of games. He kind of goes out of games. Garner Gay, like you said, come back. Our main partnership is Onana and Garner Gay. Onana and James Garner, sorry, they're the main. And then Garner Gay is on par with them. On the wings, McNeil seems to play left wing every game. Jack Harrison plays right wing every game. And then up top now, we've got this competition because we're not scoring goals. Who do we play, Beto or Calvert-Lewin? And I like Beto, I do. I mean, nothing against Calvert-Lewin, but I think when your striker's confidence is getting lower and lower and lower, you've got to look after them, take the weight off the shoulders, pull them out and put another striker in. I think Beto's come in. A lot of our fans don't like him because he looks clumsy, but he's one of those strikers that is clumsy, but he gets himself chances through being clumsy and he can score goals, but he's never been given a proper chance for us, Beto. So a lot of fans from outside Everton probably think Beto's crap, but I actually do think he can do a job against you. So we've got, other than like you say, Dele Alli, who's not really been an option, we've got a full strength team, mate. We really have got a full strength team, but we just can't find the right combination.
Which is, I mean, Box has just put on here about Sir Jim potentially wanting Branthwaite, who you just mentioned.
Amazing.
NT going, there's been a few reports about it. We need to offload so many players. It's insane. Hopefully we could get a deal done because he won't be cheap. Do you foresee a move for Branthwaite potentially to a club that's maybe higher up at the table at the moment? Or do you feel confident that you can sort of sell a vision to him for next season and keep hold of him?
I hate selling players, I do, mate. It makes me want to cry. I'd rather build around your best players. I just think it's accepting that you're not a good club when you let a player go to a team that's better. I want to be that team that he wants to play for that's better. I mean, if a player rejection says you're not good enough as a team, it's a kick in the face that you're not a good team. Even if you know it, you still got that hope that you want to be a good team. So I always like a few good players in your team to try and build. I mean, we had Lukaku. Lukaku was one for us. And I always, because you knew Lukaku was a Europa League, Champions League player, Everton always pushed to Lukaku standard because you wanted to keep him. And sometimes we got in Europa League when we had Lukaku. I'd love to do that with Branthwaite, but there's that many problems. I mean, this show could go on for 8 hours talking about Everton's problems. There's that many problems with the new stadium getting built. Obviously, the point deductions, we got 10. Now it's 6. Then there's our owners are changing. Mashiri looks like he's doing a runner. 7-7 partners are looking on taking over, but everyone's not sure whether they're even financially stable to take over. There's that much going on. So you're asking me a question. Can we keep Branthwaite or do we have to sell him? I don't know. I don't know who our owners are going to be. I mean, if these new owners come in and they just they only care about making money and just want to literally strip Everton down, then Branthwaite's gone into. These new owners come in and want Everton to be successful, then you'd like to think they keep the better players, move on the crap, and start a new plan with Everton to actually climb the league and be what we used to be, like higher in the table, not in relegation battles. Long. You can't put it short, can you? It's Everton,
No.
but yeah.
It's horrible being a fan because honestly, I'm sat here and I'm hearing you speak so passionately about your side, and I know that the three of us are sitting there feeling the same way about our own one.
I've just heard Dan say, I was going to jump in on him, but it's not my channel. But he's like, no, let's not even go for Europa League conference. And I've just looked now, and you're on like 44 points, and Tottenham are on 50. So you've got 6 points in it, and you've just waved the white flag on go for it. And that means, by the way, if you don't get Europa League conference, you're in no competition next season, and you've got to go all next season trying to get into a competition as well, which I think you probably will because you'll have a better season next season, but. You still, for financial reasons and just for like, if you did win Europa League conference, let's say you manage to get in it and you win it, it puts you in another cup. Do you know what I mean? It's straight guaranteed cup. So, as an Everton fan, we used to love Europa League. I know that's crap because our history back in the day, we used to win the big stuff. We used to be one of the bad boys, Everton did. But like I say, going to more recent, we used to love the Europa League. So, it's Man United, though. It's different, isn't it? I suppose it's different with you nowadays. It's a big fail to get Europa League conference. You probably want to hide from that because it's a fail in your face for Man United where you should be with what you spent.
Certainly for some, that's how Dan feels. But I'm old enough to remember when we were crap. So it doesn't quite affect me as bad as it does. Poor old Danny boy. Dan, we've spoken a little bit about the players, the situation we're in. Speaking about Sean Dyche, I kind of mentioned this to Andy then. We know what he's like. We know the sort of sides that he produces. They're tough, they're rough, they're not going to be easy to get through. We've had players like Bruno Fernandes, who Ollie Solskjaer's already said is, captain material, but he's too passionate. We have people like Casemiro, who he's only got to blow on people and he's likely to get sent off. We've got Diogo Dalot, who, he can be a bit temperamental as well. Do you think we're going to finish this game with 11 players on the pitch? Because I feel like if there's a little bit of needle, some of our players, if we're getting frustrated, could put themselves into the old book.
Well, this is spicy. This is, sorry, you put that onto Dan, but this is spicy. Go for it on the other Dan. Sorry, go on.
No. So you go.
I was just going to say,
fine.
Go for it.
No, I don't mind. You go first. Yeah, you go. I'll go next.
I was just going to say I've got Fernandes being dirty against us a lot when we play here. I mean, we've got to spice up this channel. This is the game coming up. I'm not going to say what you want me to say. Fernandes is normally very dirty against us. We're normally pretty dirty against you. There's been a lot of kickoffs in these games as well. Like, there's been a lot of heated. I remember I think it was when we drew, when Townsend scored that goal. There was a big kickoff before we caught Yount on the counter attack.
Yeah.
It was all feisty. So Man United's a massive game for us. We used to have a lot of ex-Man United players as well. I mean, you've got to remember, Roy Keane played for Man United. Not Roy Keane, Michael Keane. I wish it was Roy Keane. Michael Keane played for Man United. Yeah, well, just a little bit. Michael Keane played for your academy. James Garner played for your academy. Ashley Young, he's got that Man United thing as well. This is a spicy game. What do you think, Dan, on that as well? Do you think this is going to be a spicer?
Oh, I don't want to see Ashley Young, if I'm completely honest, because he is a shithouse. And he is everything that we're missing in terms of mentality, because he will get somebody sent off and wink at the crowd and then boot the ball at them 55 minutes into the... Do you know what I mean? We're missing that a little bit. So, and this is my worry. We've been bullied in midfield in particular for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks. And Everton have got a good enough pair that they could bully us. And they've got players around it that will give you a kick and will give you a little bit of a taste of what football used to be. And I'm not convinced that we've got the players to do it back. I can remember watching Fernandes in the Forest game. Every time the ball was passed to him, he'd pass it, he'd get kicked by Yates. Literally every time. And his response in the end was more in terms of what he was good at. But no one went over and gave Yates a kick from our lot to say, what you're doing. Like, I would have expected that from Casemiro. So we need a little bit more fight, to be honest. So I genuinely hope it turns into a bit of a battle and some of our players do show a bit of fight, because they've not shown enough lately in terms of really going toe-to-toe with other players. That Forest game, we was kicked all over the park, and there was a barely reaction to it in terms of what you would see. I can remember back when I was a teenager, if Gary Neville got kicked, Roy Keane was then kicking whoever's kicked Gary Neville. If David Beckham got kicked, it was more than likely Nicky Butt or Roy Keane that was doing it again. And we've not seen enough of that from these lads, to be honest. I don't know whether it's like a leadership, like a fight, maybe a little bit scared of the referee in terms of Casemiro, too scared to kick people just in case. But yeah, I think it's just going to be a tough game. I think Everton have got the joint fourth best defence in the league. So they're definitely not shipping goals, and we're not scoring goals. It's either going to be a really boring 0-0 low scorer, or it's going to be like 10v10 and then 5-5. There's going to be no in between with this one. But fingers crossed, it's a little bit spicy. It's good. They've got to give us something to watch.
Roy Keane just looked for any reason to get involved in a bit of a ding dong, so he was quite happy with that. Andy, where do you sort of stand on this one? And when you think back to the last game as well that we had, we won 3-0. And of course, that was the site, Goodison Park, of that just absolutely outrageous overhead kick from Alejandro Garnacho, probably one of the best goals seen during the season for Man United. And there's not been a huge amount of those to choose from. Do you feel like it's going to be a bit of a spicy affair? And do you think we could potentially see another contender for goal of the season? Or is it not likely to be that sort of game?
Oh, if we saw another worldie like that, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? But on Ashley Young, I remember in the Goodison Park game, he was all over the shop. Didn't he get taken off half time in that game? It was like a walking red card, wasn't he, at one point? I think people like that, as much as he'll try and wind us up, I think people like Garnacho, I think, can get at players like that very easily, and they are just walking bookings. But I think Everton will keep it tight, play deep. But like Dan says, we don't have the fight in our team. So if Everton do take it a bit, make it a bit sort of dogged and make it a bit rough, I don't think we've got the players that will give it them back, sort of thing. And I don't think they'll like that. But yeah, I think if we get an early goal, I think that's what this game will need. It'll need probably an early United goal to pull Everton out, and then I think we'll get a proper game. Then we definitely don't need an early Everton one. But yeah, I think it's set up to be a good game.
We're not great at getting those. Those early goals.
What you did last time, like you said, that overhead kick was very early last time. It knocked us back big time. That did.
Exactly. I hadn't had time to think about it. So a little question that's been thrown in by Twilumba. Twilumba's our usual hot and cold. He's the Katy Perry of the group. He says, do you see any Man United player as a threat? Is there any player from our squad at the moment that you see as potentially being a danger to your lads on Saturday?
I'll say one thing and then I'll answer that question. To what you lot was just saying earlier on, I've just looked at your last lineup and you've got McTominay, Casemiro and that really good player, Mano, whatever his name is, who played well against us last time, the young kid, in the centre. They're quite strong. Like you say, there's no passion. They're quite, no? Are they not? Am I wrong there?
They easily
would be there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, they easily overpowered. Mainu's basically doing the job of 3 men. McTominay is not a midfielder on no planet Earth. He's a player that arrives late in the box. He's got legs and he can run, but he doesn't get stuck into a tackle. And Casemiro didn't. He literally didn't get stuck into a tackle because whenever he does, he gets sent off or booked.
He'll get booked after 5 minutes.
Yeah, the last time he played, he played well. He got booked against Villa because Matty Cash dived. So he's obviously got that fear. But no, it looks better on paper than it's played in the actual games, if that makes sense.
It's like that with Man United sometimes, I suppose. Isn't it? You do get that with Man United. You kind of see the player for the best they are instead of actually the way they're performing. And because I'm not a Man United fan, I ain't been seeing that. But trust me, I know all about that. To the other question that the person just said, I hate Manuel. I hate Fernandes. I do. I don't like him. You'll like him. Because we like our own shit houses, but other fans don't like your shit house, do they? So used to be like that when we had Richarlison. So I don't like Fernandes. I think he's good against us. I don't like saying that either because I don't like him, but he's normally good against Everton, isn't he? He has scored headers against us. I've got flashbacks of that when he's only like 5 foot tall. But yeah, so he's a danger. Rashford is normally quite good against Everton. Rashford. I'm just looking whether you've got Martial on the bench because he is just like made to play Everton. He's got the biggest.
We're thinking of getting Martial recycled into a bench. It'd be more use, to be honest with you. Yeah,
well, you know what his record is against Everton. You could put him on for 2 minutes against Everton and he'd score whether he's been shit all season or not. So I'm glad if you ain't got him because I would be scared if you played him because it's just that curse that we've got with him. So I'd say Rashford and Fernandes are the threats that I'm looking at. I mean, Garnacho had a good game last game, but then I watched him since because I do watch a lot of football and he hasn't been the same. Every player turns into prime Ronaldo against Everton with that overhead kick. So I don't know. I'm not. Yeah, those 2 players, you're attacking players, but Man United have just got some big players, but a lot of players underperform. So I'm always worried about every player that you've got, if you know what I mean, because if they do decide to actually pull the socks up, we're in a bit of trouble, ain't we? But they often don't, like you said, no passion. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like if we put Amari Forson on, that's going to be the game for him then. He'll turn him onto it. Dan and Andy, are there any Everton players? Same sort of question to you. Any of those players who you think could be the big threat for Everton against us? Ones that you're worried about? See, he's ready. He's ready to hear what you're going to say.
I'm ready for this, I always am. I'm a positive fan, I am. Whether we're crap or not, I'm ready for the next game.
What do you reckon?
There we go.
Andy, go first.
I think for me, it's just set pieces on the whole for Everton. It's not just one player. I think set pieces. I think they're a massive threat at set pieces, corners. They're very well drilled. But yeah, the two in the middle for Everton. I can't remember what they're. Decore and talk to me.
Onana.
That's him. Yeah, I think they're very good players. Breaking it up, knitting it together. I think they're very good. But I think they're more of a threat, Everton, than on paper, what on paper says. So I think they've got a few players. But for me, it's corners, Tarkowski, and is it still Keane, is it?
Corners, we've got Tarkowski, Branthwaite's really good at
Branthwaite,
corners as
that's
well.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think they're just a
forward.
massive threat from set pieces, Everton.
And we're not good against set pieces, so yeah, that's reasonable. Dan, what do you reckon, Fieldy boy?
Oh. Jordan Pickford's a worry for me because he always seems to do a good job against
As the world do.
Yeah, he always seems. Come
on, Pickers! It's his birthday today. Happy birthday, Jordan Pickford.
People won't remember, I don't think, but Jussi Askelainen was the same. Whenever Bolton rolled into town, turned into prime Buffon, and Pickford's got a bit of the same about him. But I don't like the wingers because they work really hard. McNeil works hard. Harrison works hard. So I think they could cause an issue, especially if they target the left back. And then. Genuinely, I've been having a conversation at work for the last 3 days about Beto. One of the guys that comes in the shop is convinced that this guy is going to score 2, and he's like, "Put your house on it; it's going to happen." And I just hope it don't. But yeah, I think they've definitely got a threat. It's just because they're so organised. We talk about tactics and following tactics and stuff like that. You watch Dyche, and I watched it was like he basically saying how he likes to play football. It was about 2 weeks before he went into the Everton job. And honestly, the turnaround was absolutely ridiculous from what he had shown on this little graph that how he likes to play and how quickly Everton was up to that scratch. So you just know they're going to be tactically what he wants. So are we then good enough to break them down? And let's be honest, not many teams have been able to break them down. It's the reason they've got the fourth best defense in the league is Pickford top for clean sheets as well, I believe.
Yeah, he's doing really well. Pickford is. He
7
doesn't
or
get
8
credit, but he is doing really well.
Yeah. So yeah, they've got a lot of threat. I just want a good performance from us, to be honest. Something that we can walk away and say, right, well, we can see what the plan is there. He's doing something. It looks like we're doing something. At the moment, it's just all over the place. Like a lot of people will say, all that matters is the win. I'm at the point, just personally, where I'd prefer to see something on the pitch, even if we lost 2-1, but we could see what he was trying to do. Fair enough. It's these up and down performances, and Dan's right. Like it's players not performing that are good enough to perform, and they're playing well under their own radar. So as long as we see some improvement from us, we should have enough. But I'm not convinced at all.
It's really funny, Dan, because you just said, I think your centre of midfield looked powerful with McTominay, Casemiro, and the other lad, young lad. And you just said our wingers are quite good, but Everton fans are really angry with our wingers at the minute. Like, they're not happy with McNeil and they're not happy with Harrison because they've been playing really poor. Players that sound good, because normally people do say, oh, McNeil's danger, Harrison's a danger, but they've been offering nothing. Like, it's got that bad for us that people are saying put Dobbin on and give Dobbin a chance instead of McNeil. Now, because McNeil's gone through a lot of private stuff, like private stuff. He probably should have been given a break. But when your option is a young kid that's played in League Two Derby County not so long ago, he's good, but I think we haven't got strength and depth on the wings. So there's a lot of pressure on McNeil and Harrison. They haven't been playing well. So I hope, because you are cheering them on, Dan, that they actually are good this game, and you've made them. Hopefully they're listening to this.
I prefer Dobbin.
Believing themselves now.
But we'll
so it's interesting because you're talking about your wingers performing like that and saying how you don't have good strength in depth there. I was listening to you talk about having 3 fantastic right backs and 2 excellent left backs, and that was the equivalent to you sitting here eating a nice big juicy Chinese in front of us. Because I was just like, oh, I wish we could have. We've got one fullback, so it'd be quite nice.
It's also on the Sean Dyche thing, you might. I don't know if you interact with many Everton fans not happy with Sean Dyche as well at the minute. I'm a big positive fan on Toffee Bluecast on the channel, and I'm often saying he does a lot of good, and I'm behind Sean Dyche big time. But a lot of people really not happy with him. I mean, when you don't win, I think he's got the worst. Yeah, it is a results business. But you get some fans that just results. That's all they look at. Stat Kings. You know what I mean? They only look at the results, and if or they'll pull out the negatives. So if we haven't, like you said, Barry, we ain't won 1 in 10, they'll pull that out. Where I actually have watched the games and I'm like, I know they've watched them as well, but I've seen us perform well in probably 8 of those 10 games, but been really unlucky. And our performances are really good. But we're doing everything to win, but just not putting the ball in the back of the net. So I'm happy with our performances. Now that's the problem sometimes. Like Sean Dyche has brought a lot to Everton, but then once your fans become familiar with what he's brought, they think it's a given and they want more and more.
Mhm.
And like you just said, we're defending really well, which Sean Dyche has come in and sorted out. But now our fans think that's just a given, and Sean Dyche is doing nothing. But he is.
We're probably the opposite.
He's making
we're winning games, but the fans aren't overly happy with what they're seeing tactically. Because if you go back and watch the games,
the performances aren't there.
Yeah, we necessarily might not have won all of them games or should have won all those games.
Yeah.
So it's such a strange how the table works out in the end. Sometimes you've just got players that are good enough to get you by, even without being on song, which is, I think Everton are sort of in a position where the squad's not as good, but the tactics might be better in terms of if you add better players to the tactics, they would be higher. Whereas we've got good players and the tactics aren't the best, or they're not happy with the tactics, so they're struggling. But it's just an interesting one.
If your players had Dyche has come in, we didn't. By the way, before Dyche come in, we didn't have fight. We had players that turned up 1 in 3. No one played for the badge. No one gave a crap. And under Lampard, it actually felt like the players was in charge, not the manager. No disrespect to Lampard because he kept us up, but it just felt like that. Sean Dyche is coming in. He's the gaffer. He owns the camp. Like players, he keeps everyone on edge and he keeps everyone under control. And that's why I like him. And I think he's, like I say, Everton's a big project and a lot of fans haven't got patience. But I think Sean Dyche is sorting our defence out, and then probably season after season, he's going to work on different things like the attack and stuff like that. But it's a big job and people don't realise that. But it is a very big job at Everton at the minute. But I said, one of my friends, Barry, he's a Man U fan, and he did say, I'll tell you this before I come on, he goes to some of the Man U games and stuff like that. He said, it is doing his head in that Man United are trying to tit-tat in defence and there's always a player on the halfway line that they could just put in. He says he's watching Man U and they've just got to offload it and he's in all the time. Rashford on. And he says that's why Rashford's getting so frustrated because he's saying like literally Man U are just messing about, making their own mistakes when all they sometimes need to do, like Sean Dyche does, just go direct sometimes. One long ball, you're in. Like Rashford's pace, just go over the top sometimes and then play from there and regather, recharge.
Yeah. It's interesting because, Ardan, I've always said if you close your eyes, he sounds like Jermaine Genius. If you close your eyes, you could actually imagine it's Jermaine Genius. And I reckon if we got a little bit more gravel in your voice, you'd actually sound a bit like Sean Dyche. I think you've got the right sort of accent on that. I like it.
I sound like Sean Dyche. Gravel.
A bit more gravel in the voice, I reckon.
In the voice.
Well, I try to sound hardcore. Yeah, I want to sound good. I've come on and I've got 3 intimidating Man U fans. So I've deliberately put on like
I'm far from intimidating me. I hope not.
That's what we're going to do. I'm Sean Dyche.
I did want to ask you though, Dan, because Dyche was one of the points I was going to make, so I'm glad you picked that one up. But I did want to talk a little bit about the points deduction and also where you are in the league at the moment. So with the points deduction, I just wanted to know kind of what the fans are thinking about that, because we know there's been a little bit of controversy, shall we say, around that and how they made, I think, too much of a big deal over your case in particular as well. There was honesty in there. It was an honest mistake to make. It didn't seem like they were trying. It's not 115 charges. Let's just put it that way. It didn't seem like it needed to be quite so heavy. So just generally the reaction on that, but also how you're doing in the league at the moment. Obviously, the 4 points coming back would be helpful, but are you feeling confident that that's not going to derail your season and that you should be able to keep up? Because I think we'd all agree Everton have been a mainstay of the top division for a ridiculously long amount of time. I think one of the top sides to not suffer a relegation for, I think it's about 60 years or something like that. You're well up there, and we wouldn't want to see you go down because we get some good games out of you. So how are you guys feeling about how your season's going to go and finish?
We was in 2 relegation battles, as everyone knows, and people will label us as that team. But after being in those 2 relegation battles, we signed a few players, and this season we wasn't a relegation team this season. By the way, do you know when they gave us the 10-point deduction this season, which Everton was working with the Premier League, so we're working with them. When we sign players, it had to go through the Premier League, so we're doing the right thing. So all of our signings had to go through the Premier League, so we're working with them. So you think you're safe. And then all of a sudden, the Premier League, because people are looking into them and they don't want that, they've used Everton as an example to show that they will give out a big punishment. They've gone and give us a 10-point deduction. Now, you get 9 points for administration. So Everton could have gone into administration, saved loads of money, done things proper, dirty, dodgy, like a lot of other teams, and actually it would have helped us load and benefited us. But instead, we had to sell Anthony Gordon. Probably didn't want 240 million because we was working with the Premier League. They made us. We had to sell Richarlison for 60 million. We could have sold him more, but we was working with the Premier League. We did. So we've done everything that the Premier League told us. Think we're okay, and then they go and give us a 10-point deduction. Now, this, by the way, they've said it gave us no sporting advantage, so it shouldn't be an on-field sanction. It should just be a fine. Like, that's my personal opinion, anyway. Because if they've said now the Premier League, it gave us no sporting advantage, and a lot of it's the stadium. So Everton trying to better themselves, we're getting punished. So we're trying to help the Premier League by giving them a better stadium and making us better in the Premier League. And obviously the stadium's going to be amazing, but they're not letting us do that. For us as an Everton fan, mate, it feels like the teams at the top, it's a lot easier when you're at the top than us at the bottom trying to get to the top. It seems like there's no direction. What have Everton done wrong? I mean, look at the players we've signed. No one in the last 3 transfer windows. Like, we literally haven't. We've just got loans and stuff like that. If you look at Everton's spending, we're at the bottom. And all we've tried to do is, because our new stadium's not making enough money, is get a new stadium. I don't know what it's going to be like for you when you get a new stadium as well, but it just doesn't make you feel good, does it? Because we're trying to better ourselves as a football club. Like the Premier League, it's their job to look after football clubs. They're not looking after us. They're destroying us. Like, they should be helping us build a new stadium so we're more financially stable, so we're a better team, and then we'll be okay. But over this period where Everton are trying to better themselves, they're destroying us. Now, when this happened, Leicester fans laughed at us. Some Nottingham Forest fans laughed at us. Some other fans laughed. Everyone laughed. A lot of people laughed at us. But now it's happening to them. We've gone and seen this morning, I think it's Leicester. They might be getting a point deduction. I've had a Forest fan to me now saying, "Oh, sorry, mate, I know how it feels now," because they're in the same situation. The Premier League is being run so bad. And at first, when it was on Everton, it was funny. But now people are starting to realise that this could proper destroy the Premier League. I mean, you just said it. This season, Man City, 115 charges. We've got 2 charges, and we've got 6-point deduction. 115, what's that? A 100-point deduction. So you're talking about you being top 5. Man City shouldn't even be in the league this season if they've got a 100-point deduction. Chelsea as well.
The dog and duck next season. That's where they should end up.
Yeah, Chelsea as well. So they're 2 teams that have done loads of offences that go back before us, but we get punished first just because we worked with the Premier League and did things right. It's hard to talk about, mate, because we've been through so much. But to put it bluntly, they've messed around with our season so much, because before they gave us the 10-point deduction, we was 12th. We was 12th and thinking about going into Europa League. We just won 4 on the bounce. And that's why they gave it us, because we looked like we was doing okay. And this is a season that they could give it us. So they gave it us. We was 12th. And then you sit 12th and then get put near the bottom 3. It knocked our team massively, our confidence.
Yeah.
And then they messed about with us again, and they've just gone and said now that the most you can get is an 8-point deduction, even though they gave us 10. This shows how much of a clown these people are running it. The most you can get is 8 points, and they gave us 10. How can you play around with someone so much in a season? Like, we don't know what we're working with. We didn't know what we was getting back. I do believe that if they didn't give us this 10-point deduction when we was 12th, we would have played with more freedom because we wasn't near the bottom of the table. Where we haven't been scoring goals, we would have been more confident to score goals because we had that place in the table where we could just go for it a bit more. So we've been destroyed this season, mate, and it's wrong. It is wrong. It needs calling out, because it could affect anyone. It could even affect you lot later on. Man United, I know you're a big club, but it would have done if you want a big club.
We did mention something. Didn't we have an issue against FFP? And it was basically wiped under the carpet.
Point, didn't we?
It was UEFA. We failed UEFA's FFP, and basically we spotted the mistake So we told UEFA and we ended up getting a fine because of it.
Yeah.
But even now we're struggling with the FFP in the Premier League because that's why we didn't sign anybody in January. It's why we sent players back. It's why
Scared
we
everyone.
Well,
Yeah.
we sold Fernandez. We tried to get rid of Hannibal. We sold somebody else. We was trying to get a striker in on loan, but they said basically, even though we'd sent Reguilon back, there's no money, so we couldn't get them in on loan because they're that close to FFP that they're too scared to do it. So it is affecting everybody. The confusing thing for me about the Everton one, as I've read quite a little bit into it, it seemed to all just come down to the way the stadium were financed. So Everton took loans out in certain aspects to pay for certain parts of the stadium, under the impression that the Premier League, that was fine. It could be written off because it was a loan and it was against the stadium, not against the club directly. And the Premier League basically informed them, no, that's not, you can't do that. That's what's taking you under. So they've worked with them for 2 years to try and fix it. And then the Premier League went, well, 10 points anyway. And then obviously to see it then drop to 6th, but then are they going to get another one now before the end of the season? Can you imagine the legal issues if Everton, say 38 games are played, Everton are 15th, they lose another 6 points for the second charge and it drops them to 19th and they end up getting relegated? I can remember, I don't know if you'll be able to remember this, but West Ham basically illegally signed Tevez and Mascherano, and Sheffield United went down because of that. And I think Premier League ended up paying like 46 million to him because it was just not done correctly. And it will end up loads of legal issues, loopholes, if they don't get it in check. My issue is, you've seen like Leicester apparently getting charged. Wolves absolutely smashed the EFL FFP to bits, but they got promoted, so got away with it. So how come all of a sudden they could possibly get charged in the Championship, but Wolves didn't get charged when they came to the Premiership? So it's like they don't even know their own laws, and they're sort of scrambling because of what's happening with City to try and scare all the other teams into not doing what City's done, while City just do whatever they want still. It's not a good look for the Premier League. And honestly, I spoke to quite a few people about this. If City just get a slap on the wrist after all of this, say 50 charges are proven, and there's just a little slap on the wrist with a big fine, I think a lot of people will turn away from the Premier League in terms of as a visual sport, because it's just not a good look. There's got to be some proper punishments handed down to teams if they're going to do it City's way and not interact with the Premier League, kick the can in the courtroom as far as they can take it. You look at Chelsea, they've massively overspent. They've been warned, if you do this, you're going to have massive problems going forward. Now they're at the position where they might have to sell Gallagher. They had to sell Mount for good profit because it was all profit. And you think their situation in 3 years, when all these contracts are still there, all this money, that like they're paying like 120 million per transfer window to keep up with all these players that they've signed. So if they don't start selling homegrown talent, they're going to break the rules. And if that's what they've done to break the rules, massively inflated stuff, this should be a bigger punishment. Everton should have been on the lower end of the scale of punishment. A fine, a point or two.
They've opened up a big can of worms now.
Massive can of worms.
And let's be honest, if it's 6 points for you, if it's 6 points for you, and you said 50 charges could potentially be done, that's 300 points using that system of 6 points per charge. What do you do with that? I mean, is that a relegation? Is it like Jarvis says? Do they strip them of that's the wrong one. Do they strip them of their titles and potentially hand Liverpool a couple of them? I mean, I'm sure that Dan wouldn't want that either. That wouldn't be ideal. But I'm not sure that retrospective punishment like that really makes a difference. I mean, surely something like that.
You're saying they're going to change this is why Everton fans are so frustrated, because it looks like they're going to change the rules at the end of the season. And like Dan's just said, they can't do what they're doing, because the way it's going, it massively hurts us. But even the teams at the top, it's going to hurt you, because nobody signed anyone this transfer window, and the Premier League needs to be the best league in the world. And if you those transfer windows are like that for the next couple of transfer windows, it's going to be the crappiest league in the world, because other players are going to move on abroad that haven't got these rules that we've got. You can't sign anyone. You've never known a transfer window that bad. And it could happen again because Everton getting those 10 points has scared everyone. It scared you. Maybe you wanted to buy players and you would have brought players, but because we got a 10-point deduction, it makes you think twice, and it's dangerous for this league. I do think they'll change it, and I think that's where I think it's massively wrong if we've had to go by these harsh rules and then all of a sudden next season, which it's been talked about, they change the rules and it's okay for teams then.
This is a very interesting one just to end this particular thing.
It's too long. It's too long, mate.
No, I was just liking this. Jarvis saying Mourinho would have a title, and more importantly, so would Ollie. I don't know. Maybe we should go for retrospective action because that would be. Imagine that Ollie gets the title back. Lovely stuff. Right. Speaking of Ollie, I did kind of want to move into the comments that were made. I watched the overlap. I've never watched an episode of the overlap in my life. I've seen little bits of it. I just don't have the time. But I had to. It's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You know, the guy to us is a legend. To me, particularly, loved the guy. Had to watch it. And I thought it was one of the best bits of TV that I've watched already this year. I doubt there's going to be very many football documentaries or interviews that I watch that's going to affect me quite as much as one about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We're going to come back to a question about your players on this round, Dan, so don't worry about that. But I just wanted to ask you, first of all, Dan Field and Andy, your thoughts on how that interview went. First of all, did you watch it? But secondly, the beginning part when they're talking about his reign at Manchester United and how he'd left, it still seemed raw. It was 2 years ago, but it looked to me like he was welling up again. He's not over it yet, is he? He said he didn't want to take these other jobs. It's really affected him losing this job, hasn't it?
I'll let you go first, Beanie.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good watch, actually. He's very emotional, wasn't he, when he was talking about the players almost giving up at half time and him asking the players who wanted to go back out. And he felt like the fight had gone out of the players and he just knew it was coming. You could see it. It was just very raw for him, like you say. But I thought it was a great insight into how the club was ran when he was there. What a mess they made of a few transfers. And it kind of got me thinking of the football that he was playing at that time was so good. We were in a real good place, much better than we are now. But how quickly things can turn on one transfer, one decision. I felt for him, like listening to the interview, because it is so raw, and you can tell he has real love for the club.
Yeah, for me, it just screams that he's got unfinished business at the club. I never wanted him to get sacked. I thought that the Ronaldo decision to bring him back, even though he says it himself, it was the right decision at the time. It probably didn't work out for the best. He's spot on. But the most interesting thing I took from the whole thing is when he was listing players, and he was talking about players, he was listing Dan James, Scott McTominay, Jesse Lingard. He was listing players that would run for him and that he knew he could trust. This Maguire. He was talking about interviews, and all these players that I've listed. They are players that are constantly battered on social media, while other players get away with it scot-free that have been there just as long. And I think it's made me step back a little bit because I'm quite critical of Ten Hag. It's made me step back a little bit to wonder, are some of these players still in that changing room and thinking that it could go the same way? And do we just always blame the same players because they're the big players? And maybe they're not the problem. Maybe Maguire isn't the problem. McTominay is not the problem. Maybe it's other players that are just in the shadows a little bit that don't want to step up and do the best for the club. I wouldn't have wanted him to be sacked even after the Watford game. The way he speaks about the club, that is exactly the sort of man you would want in charge of what Ineos is supposed to be bringing in. Like, I don't think it's a good idea for him to return yet, or like maybe not even for the next 5 years. I'm not saying that. But he was clearly let down by the situation. I mean, when you go to a club, even before you come back to Man United, and you say, there's a kid called Haaland, you could get him for absolute pittance, 4.5 million. Come and get him. No, sorry, we've got more than enough players scouted. We don't need to come and have a look. Sweet. And then when you go as manager and you say, this lad's got a 20 million release clause, he's not even kicked a ball for Salzburg yet. Go and get him, me. no, we're going to veto that because of the
Shocking.
system that we run, and we're going to veto it. And now you look at Haaland now.
Yeah.
Like, there's no guarantee that Haaland would have turned into that player that's turned in at Dortmund and City. I'm not saying that for a second, but the talent ID was there, wasn't it? So Solskjaer had got the talent ID for some of these players. He wanted Rice before Rice went Arsenal. He wanted Caicedo, and he's gone Chelsea 110 million, was fantastic at Brighton. He wanted Jude Bellingham before he wanted Sancho. He obviously had the talent ID to get some of these players in, but it was so interesting to hear him speak about how the club's set up in terms of vetoes, in terms of transfers. It sounds, I know we're all really excited about Ineos and the way they bring in structures and levels, but like watching him speak made me think sounds really overcomplicated. So he basically said, my next team, I'd want more control, as if he was annoyed by United's way that they didn't give him enough free reign and control of what he wanted to do. Even though he said, I only signed players that we agreed we would sign, and I could have vetoed anybody. There's still, as he was saying it, I still didn't 100% believe what he was saying. I still don't think he wanted some of these players, and maybe commercially they was better. Like Donny van den Beek, did he want him? Did it just look good because he was in the semi-final with Ajax? Do you know what I mean? It's just, I still maintain it's the best football we've played in a decade. We had more possession when we was playing most teams. His record against Man City was amazing. I always get Liverpool fans come at me saying, "Oh, well, he was crap. He wasn't really that good." Well, in his 2 full seasons, he finished above Klopp, so he must be all right because he's finishing above the Messiah. So he was so hard done to, and then people calling him a PE teacher. It was just a nail in the coffin, because when you look at that and the way he spoke, he obviously knows what he's doing, and he should have been given a little bit longer. And I think that's where it fell down a little bit. And genuinely, when I finished watching it, I sat there and went, do you know what? I'd much prefer probably 8 of these players to disappear before Ten Hag does. And then we might see the real Ten Hag, because there's obviously an issue in that dressing room that isn't going to be fixed until certain players are shipped out. We don't know who they are. The frustrating thing for me is people have taken what he said and they've gone, oh, Rashford and McTominay wanted to come off. They didn't want to play for him anymore. Well, he also said 2 players were crying and couldn't carry on. Were they not them 2 players? Do you know what I mean? We don't know. They're just making an assumption because it's easy target. It's fantastic clickbait for certain channels. But I hope he comes back into management soon, because I hope he proves a lot of people wrong. It's just if he gets the right job offer.
I think you said about the captaincy as well. Players didn't want to captain certain
games. Like, how can you be at Manchester United and
crazy.
someone can say to you, let's take Man City as the game. I want you to captain Man United against Man City. Oh, sorry, Gaffer, I'm not up for that. Then you should not be sat in a Manchester United dressing room. You should be at a completely different club, because if you can't take that responsibility, then even like, because he wouldn't have just asked anybody. Let's be honest. He's asked some big players here, and it makes my respect for people like Maguire go with even more, because he had the balls to take it. Yes, it turned sour in the end, but then he's got through all that nonsense and he's come out the other side of it, and he's still there, and he's still a strong character. It showed me how bad the club is at the minute, in terms of the whole.
I feel like you say what you say about the captaincy there. For me, it was quite an interesting one, because again, the people that don't want to take it, maybe they're looking at the abuse. Maybe that's a little bit about looking at the fans as well, and the way in which they choose to speak, and the way in which they choose to behave around people that are supposed to be in our team. But equally, what more it says about Harry Maguire, that he just sits there and shoulders it all, even though he's still continually getting it. But we are going to let other Dan join in, or he's just going to be sitting there watching a Man United show, and that's not ideal.
No, it was interesting, because it's interesting because it's borderline, because is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer a Lampard? Because you look at a lot of these young managers, Vieira for Crystal Palace didn't do it. Gerrard, thank God, flopped. Didn't do it. Lampard, flop, didn't do it. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't do it. Is it that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer didn't have that experience and wasn't ready?
Well, when you say he didn't
I do feel it's partly that, but I also do feel that it's partly because Man United are always butting in. They always think that they turn the nose at actually building the club up. Like, they think they have to. Like Sancho, come on. Sancho, that was a big money signing. the amount of money that you spent on players. And I think to myself now, because Everton, we did it, you're buying names. Like Man United should have, and I've said this about Everton now, and we started doing it, and that's why we're getting good, by the way. Because we couldn't spend, it was the best blessing in disguise we've had, because we started looking at young players, because we couldn't afford these big name players. But then we got the young players that are just turned into gems. So we get someone like Branthwaite, we get someone like Onana, and they're worth what? Branthwaite, tag on him now, 70 million. We signed him for 1 million. Onana, we got him for 35. Talks that people might want Onana centre midfield for 60 million. So what I'm saying is we're getting your Sanchos that you spent 70 million on just by taking a risk on a younger player. Man United, they don't want to like rebuild.
Preach.
I think we probably got Fergie butting in saying, get this. Fergie probably said, get Ronaldo.
Yeah, well,
I think Ronaldo is one of the best players ever. I actually do rate Ronaldo like up there because I think he's amazing, obviously. But you can't live in the past, can you?
No,
like,
Solskjaer alluded to that.
You mentioned the Sancho thing. He actually said with that one that it took 18 months. They'd wanted him. It would be a long chase that they'd gone for. And he said, I couldn't get what I needed to out of Sancho because he came in, he was injured, he had a problem, and then something else happened, and he just couldn't get him started. And he's, well, as we've seen, he hasn't got started at all, really, has he? It's just dropped off completely, which is no good for anyone.
Because Man United are such a big name, like Everton, it's sometimes we tried to get good players and we couldn't, so we had to get Sigurdsson, like a big name, but he's not big. Because Man United are a big name, why, when you signed Sancho, didn't you buy a young kid for 5 million that had that potential of Sancho as well, like in every single position? So you literally you get Sancho, but you also get because this is what Man United are all about, like your David Beckham's, your old school Ole Gunnar Solskjaer where you won stuff.
Like it's interesting you say that, Dan, because
that's what you was, young players. Ronaldo, McKenna, was it McKenna or someone like that? You always had young players coming through, but now
Solskjaer actually signed Garnacho from Atletico Madrid. He was there when Garnacho came, and I guarantee if Solskjaer would have stayed, players like Fernandes, the left back, players like Garner, players like I don't know, Amas,
Pellistri,
these would have all been given a bigger chance. The issue,
listen to him more.
Yeah, well, the issue Erik ten Hag's got this season, he's so desperate to keep on to his job. He's doing exactly what Solskjaer did at the end. And so people have alluded to it into the comments. He kept playing players that were starting to let him down because the result was more important than the build. And so the argument started with Ronaldo. Cavani then wasn't happy. But instead of just, right, you know what? I don't care if you're not happy. It's not working. I need to revert back to what was working. He genuinely sounded, when he mentioned, and people will laugh at it, when he mentioned Dan James leaving, he looked gutted because it was part of his plan that Dan James would press. He was a pressing monster, and he wasn't the best player in the world, but he fitted the system perfectly. And I've been sucked into it this season. I can admit that I get frustrated with Ten Hag with these lineups, but the same thing's happening. He's just so desperate to keep onto his job, and if he put a weakened team out and we lost, or the fans would get on his back, the board will ask questions what he's doing. But proper football fans, like that care about the future of the club, would be like, right, at least Ahmad's getting minutes. Next season, he might come a bit better. I always revert back to Arsenal, and people compare Arteta and Solskjaer and Arteta and Ten Hag and stuff like this. And you start to look at the way Arsenal lost like 10 of 11 in a row. Saka was playing, Martinelli was brought in, Smith Rowe was brought in, Eddie Nketiah started to play games. He was building, and yes, they were getting beat, and yes, it would have been tough, but he was building them up as people as well as players because he was letting them suffer. Arsenal were never going to get relegated. They was good enough to stay up or finish 5th or 6th, and that's where we are. We're not in a position where we're going to get relegated. If we finish 7th, is it the end of the world if you've given 15 appearances to the youth players over the season, but you finish 7th? Because next season, you would go to them youth players and say, give me a bit more. And then you've got a chance of a career at Man United. Far too often, and we did a little series, well, you did a little series, Barry, we see players get one appearance, that's it, gone. You never see them again. They don't really, he must have seen him on the training pitch. I can always remember Arsene Wenger say that Thierry Henry was one of the worst training footballers he ever had. And you saw how good he was when he stepped onto a football pitch. Some people can just do it on a pitch. Ledley King was another one. could really ever train for Spurs because he had tendonitis in both his knees. Absolute colossal when he played on a Saturday. It just somehow happens that way. The club needs a full reset and spot on.
Yeah, but what is your big problem was what our problem was as well. I'm not comparing them both because you're a lot higher in the league than us, but you kept changing managers, and every manager has a different style. Every manager has a style, right? So your sporting director is going to, every time you change a manager, trying to get players to that style. So you literally sack a manager, then you've got to try and get players that are that style of that manager. Then you sack another manager. Then you're still left with these players, by the way. Got to get those players to that style. And you're left now. I'm looking at Man United and I'm thinking, what is Man United's style of play? I don't know. I really don't know.
Not aware.
Well, this is why we struggle, I think, with the style of play and why lots of fans say that. And it's because, as you've just said, they've then got to get players that they didn't buy. So they've already got players from possibly sometimes 3 or 4 different regimes in the terms of De Gea specifically. You still add all the way back to Ferguson. And you look at all of these players and you think, well, these aren't players that I wanted. So then they've got to decide which ones they like. And that's the thing. And I always try and look through it as which ones have lasted throughout it all, because there must be something about them in order for these other managers to have come in and said, we're going to keep them. And I just found Ollie's interview, like I say, really illuminating. The fact that he had Jude Bellingham in there and he said it didn't really matter what we wanted to do. He wasn't going to sign because he knew what it was that he wanted to do and he knew what he wanted and we couldn't give him that. The fact that he was so positive about Rice. But the Haaland one is the one that gets me. I cannot believe that they just basically pied him up. And I hope that one day he really does just tell us who it is who genuinely vetoed that, because that person, I don't think, has any place in football. The fact that they've managed to just completely just crap all over everything he said. It's not like he said it once. Like every time he keeps going back, going, look, this kid is going to be something special. I've played with him. He's been under me for 18 months.
You're still doing it now, though, because it linked us to Elanga, and I knew Elanga was really good. I don't know what you lot think of him, but I knew he was really good. Yeah, I knew he was really good, and it linked us to him, but obviously we couldn't sign players at the time. And I go and watch Elanga for Nottingham Forest, and I think to myself, he's better than Anthony. You've gone and spent all that money on Anthony, and Anthony's just a one-trick pony all the time. Same thing. You know what he's going to do, turning, cutting. You're very predictable. And I watch Elanga, and he's busting it up in the Premier League. He was your player. You didn't need to go and spend all that money. Like, I just think, why didn't you just play Elanga on the wing and go and invest your money in centre-backs? Because let's face it, that's your Man United should never have. And I sorry, but I find it like crazy when I look at Evans as your centre-back. Man United should not be getting rejected.
He's been one of our best players this season. It's madness.
But that's not that's how bad it is. Then, isn't it, if he's your best player? Because Evans, you've got. I still think Maguire's not good enough for you now. He should have got moved on, because people are willing to buy your players for quite a lot of money still. I mean, I know West Ham was very interested in a lot of your players where you could have got a lot of money after they got the Declan Rice money. So I can't believe you're just not going for that rebuild, because it's so easy to do. Your defence should be all good. I mean, I've got Branthwaite now and I love him. You should be all over talent like that. I don't want you to come for Branthwaite. No. But what I'm saying is you could have literally have not signed Anthony, put Elanga on the wing, and gone and got Branthwaite, who's absolutely class centre-back, and that just takes you Champions League this season. And I'm not even joking, just by getting a good centre-back when I've watched Man United, that's going to be calm and pass the ball and get it to Casemiro, changes you completely. But your centre-backs, when I've watched them, they're on edge. You're trying to pass out from the back, but you haven't got defenders that can pass out from the back. Yeah. So it's a losing battle. So you need to rebuild and get those sort of players that can pass out from the back. And it's so easy. You must be frustrated for you, because it's so easy to see your problems, but for some reason you're not kidding. You're not doing the simple things.
2 shows a week on this team. It's unreal. But there we go.
Like Everton, don't worry. I know how it feels.
But I suppose I'd finish it off as well with the whole Ronaldo chat. And I think that really for me, I just think I don't believe. I find it hard to believe that Ollie genuinely, really, really wanted Ronaldo. When you start listening to how he's talking about, yes, he had to change things, the fact that he got rid of Dan James, I still think he changed everything. He ripped it all up.
Yeah.
because why would you not want Ronaldo? Like, he's meant to be one of the best players in the world. And I think I agree with Gary Neville when he said, you kind of wanted Cristiano to come in and be a bit more, I'm with you, let's work together on this one and rally the dressing room, where instead it wasn't. It was still sort of the Ronaldo show. It wasn't going to be him and Ollie that was going to save the club. It was going to be him. And that was going to be his legacy, that he turns United back around. And of course, it just didn't happen. And I think the final point on the whole thing was the Harry Maguire thing, how he said he just hasn't been the same since Mykonos. And I think it gave us an insight into the things that I think Ollie done really well, which was how he looked after the players and how he understood them, how he listened to them, and how he reacted and did things the way that they needed them to be done. And I miss him. I miss him very, very much. But that was awesome. Listen, I've got one final question for you all, really. Although I will just point out to Twilumba's point here. He said Ollie also had his flaws. Playing an injured Martial and Rashford, also had his favourites. I think the key thing that came out of what he said there was how the reason he liked people like Fred, McTominay, and those sort of people is because he knows what he's going to get out of them. Tradition, proper 7 and 8 performances week in, week out. He said it's awful when you don't know what you're going to get out of your team. So that's why he did it. The question that I had for you, Dan, that's Everton Dan, is this one here. He asked, how would you rate Garner's performance this season? And we can add to that as well, of course, Ashley Young as well. What's your thoughts on how those guys have managed to play for you? Are you glad you got them from us?
Yeah, obviously our fans have turned on Garner a little bit just lately, but I think he's fantastic, and I think he's a good talent. And I know a lot of Man United fans wasn't that happy that you let him go, because he probably would have been a good player for you right now. He is good. We need to rebuild, so we're not seeing the best James Garner, but he works hard. He's good on the ball, confident, technical. He is a really good player. I like him, but we've got to progress a little bit to see the best Garner that we need to see. So just because Everton are not doing that well at the minute, some people will say, oh, Garner's shit. But he's not. Trust me, I'm happy with him. He's young. You can see he was in England under-21s. He won a trophy, didn't he, with England under-21s? And he's one of the young gems. And you want the young gems, especially the English talent ones, don't you? So, yeah, I'm happy with James Garner. I think he's going to be, in 2 years' time, very good standard Premier League player. He's that age where you can wait, can't you? So I'm happy with him. And the other one that you said, Ashley Young. Ashley Young, when you're playing right back, I hated him. I hated him. We was having bets in my group, Toffee Bluecast group chat, how long it would take for Ashley Young to get a card. Whether it was going to be 2 minutes. It was literally, you knew he was going to get a card, but how quick it was going to be. And but we then played him on the right wing, and he was okay on the wing because he's a bit more composed, do you know what I mean? He's okay on the wing. He doesn't put tackles in on the wing. He's okay. But another one that you did have in your academy is Dwight McNeil. I seen that not long ago as well when we did a little quiz on the Toffee Bluecast. Dwight McNeil was in your academy as well. He looks like he's about 31, doesn't he, Dwight McNeil? But he's a young player, isn't he, Dwight McNeil? He's all right, but he just needs to get going again.
Fair play.
Good questions, though.
Yeah. It's time for the predictions then. Andy, what do you reckon? What's the score going to be on Saturday?
2-0 United.
Straight in there. No problems whatsoever. He's a little bit not confident, not worried, but 2-0 United. Okay. I see how we managed to go. At
the start, these two was very miserable at the start, mate.
Blind confidence.
Typical, like, no, we're not that good. I'm worried about this game, but you still pull out 2-0, don't you, out of the act? Go on then.
Let's see what Dan Field's going to say with it. What do you reckon, Dan?
Well, I got this spot on last time, if you remember. I said we'd get an early goal and we'd win 3-0. So I just can't see us keeping a clean sheet. That's my problem. I think 1-1.
So he's Nick Jarvis's one. So you've gone a lot more with your initial thoughts. What do you think, Dan?
I've got to stick with this on my show tomorrow now, haven't I? I like to get these right. I'm normally positive when I go like 5-0 Everton, but I'm calmed down a little bit here. Right. I'm going to go for 2-1 Everton. I'm going for 2-1 Everton. It's going to be a good game, this is, by the way. It's two teams that are playing crap, that are disappointing fans, that are probably going to randomly is going to be a thriller this game. 2-1.
4-4.
Yeah, 4-4.
Lots of draws going in there. 3-1 Rasmus will be the difference if he plays. If he doesn't, then 1-1. So nobody's seeing a defeat. And I think, like you said, with the way the form's going at the moment for Everton, a draw wouldn't be completely unexpected with how things have been going. My final question, and I think it's one that I throw out to all of the opposition fans on this one as well. What's your biggest memories of Everton against Man United? Because when I think about it, one of my biggest ones, I think it was the 1995 FA Cup final with Paul Rideout, and just the absolute despair that I felt in the FA Cup final, because I was convinced we were going to win, and then that header just absolutely spoiled the party for me. So yeah, do you have one, Dan, a particular Everton against United highlight?
We normally have good games against you, don't we? Was it you that Sigurdsson was sitting down where we scored and it got disallowed?
Yeah, Maguire.
Sigurdsson had a shot and Sigurdsson was sitting down or something like that. I don't know where. No, that isn't. I actually put a tweet up that said, like, what's your favourite game and stuff like that. And some people did say the 1-0 Duncan Ferguson against Man United, where we was at home. A lot of people did like that one, Duncan Ferguson. So I like that one as well. I don't know. I don't know. There's just, we're always a good game, ain't we? I can't pick one. I even like the draw where Townsend did the Ronaldo celebration just because I thought it was like an unexpected counter-attack, and that was a big game for us to stay up. I don't know. It is going to be a good game.
Duncan Ferguson, he was your Bruno Fernandes, wasn't he?
Duncan Ferguson liked Man United, didn't he? I mean, he had one where he scored 2 goals against Man United as well. So, yeah, we like playing each other, but I've got a bit of respect for Man United because we have often had, like, your players. I mean, some are crap, some are good. Phil Neville, an example. Phil Neville, Tim Howard, Schneiderlin, didn't like him. Gibson wasn't too bad. Gibson, yeah, not too bad. He was all right. Because United used to be such a good team, if you could get one of their players, they were usually decent. That's the way you used to be, wasn't it? But yes, because you've had a lot of your players, I don't mind you.
Why did we not say Wayne Rooney?
I don't want to say Wayne Rooney because I'm still hurt that you took Wayne Rooney off us, mate. You know what I mean? We could have had trophies in the cabinet if you didn't take. We had Zaha though. We did get Zaha. I liked him. Zaha was really good.
Yeah,
he was good for you.
Any particular memories for you two boys?
I can always remember.
I was going to say the Rideout one.
Go on, Beanie, sorry.
I was going to say the FA Cup one that you said, Barry. Like, that one just sticks in my head.
It's horrible, isn't it? It's the first thing. It's just right there, and it makes me grumpy actually every time I think about it. Probably why I'm not quite so excited. But yeah, Hildy.
I can always remember the 4-4. I think it's 4-2 up at Old Trafford, and they scored 2 in the last 10 minutes. I think Stephen Pienaar got the last one. I can always just remember I'm sure it was a 12:30 kickoff as well. And I can remember the last goal, Everton scoring the last goal going in. And I just fucking took my.
Was that Moyes? Was that Moyes at Everton then?
Yeah, I think it was Moyes. Was it Jelavic as well scored on that day? I think. I'm sure Fellaini played. Howard played. It was
the one where we won 4-0 and Digne scored against you 4-0. I don't know whether there was a random 4-0. Did we beat you 4-0 once? I can remember me being at a park and I was like, I didn't get to watch the game. I was with my kids at the park and I looked at my phone and it was 4-0. It was like the first one I missed ever. And I was like, what the heck? We've actually beat you 4-0. So I wouldn't mind this game. I'd take 4-0. I'd take that.
I remember the Oviedo one as well. Was that when Moyes was with us and they beat us 1-0? Was it Brian Oviedo or something like that? And they beat us 1-0 at Old Trafford. I remember that one.
I'm not liking all these wins at Old Trafford that I'm hearing about.
United was the big boys, weren't they? We always wanted to play well against United because you was I can't believe, not to put it down or anything. I can't believe how much you've lost your way to what you are at the minute. But to like I say, it's just when I watch Man United, it's just not a Man United team. It ain't your standard team. But when you listen to Ronaldo say that. Like I said, one of my uncles is a Man United fan. So when you listen to Ronaldo say that nothing's changed, he went back and nothing's changed. No, the training ground's not changed. Nothing's changed inside. And then you look at frigging a lot of people changing grounds, changing training stuff. United have got to do that. I'm sure you will though, because you have got big boy owners coming in, haven't you? And I think that this is why I said to you now, I think this is where you need to take a time out and rebuild.
Yeah, reset.
And go back to the old Man United, isn't it?
Jarvis has gone
Morgan
through all these
Schneiderlin.
players, and I have to. And you mentioned Andre Kanchelskis, another great player. We enjoyed him, but he's
Fellaini.
thrown this one on, and it's reminded me.
Cleverly.
You did. You took
Cleverly,
Tom
yeah.
Cleverly. I've publicly outed him on this channel as the worst player to ever put on a Man United shirt, other than William Pugno. What did you make of Tom Cleverly?
He's shit. I didn't like Cleverly at all. No,
See,
I didn't rate him at all.
You must have done.
Fellaini, it's crazy because you actually took on manager as well, though. When you think about it, you took David Moyes.
yes, we did. Yeah, he lasted.
And then
That was
immediately
your
sacked him.
Manager after Fergie. Yeah, that was your manager after. That's the problem. David Moyes come and didn't get a say because all the players. It's still a problem now. Isn't it? I think Man United get a lot of big ego, big name players, and they don't. And the managers find it hard to handle these big egos, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
I've said on this channel 100 times that sacking David Moyes was what's led us to where we are now, because we just become a club that was results driven. I think had we given him a couple more seasons, 6-year project, we were sold.
Before we end this, though, I don't think your manager's that good. I'm going to say this. I don't think he's that good. No, I think he's part of your problem, because I look at him have that big argument with Rashford, and then Rashford comes back and smashes the ball in the back of the net sometimes. And I think Sean Dyche is getting the best out of a very poor team with us. I don't think your manager's getting the best out of your players either. And he's got to be like in contention for getting sacked, hasn't he? What do you think on that? Because we haven't said that. You lot have all said like you're really happy with him. But do you think you're not happy with him? No, I think he's a big problem. I think he's causing a lot of problems. You are saying it's the problems that have been. You're saying that players have been a problem for a long time at Man United, but a lot of those players have gone. Pogba's gone. You've seen a lot of those players go now, and you have got a lot of different players in the change room. So is the manager the wrong manager? And if so, before we leave, I know it's bad to say get rid of your manager, because I don't say get rid of Dyche, but if you was going to get a new manager, what manager would you want? Because we keep saying don't change manager, but if you're going to say now, give a manager 3 years, would you give it who you've got now, or would you bring someone else in and give it to another manager and build around him?
We'd take Sean Dyche, obviously, just to wind you up. We wouldn't take Sean Dyche.
He'd probably get more out of your players to give him a kick up the backside.
We could
sort it out.
Exactly that. See, there it is. There's the grab.
There you go, Maguire. Come on, Maguire. Sort it out, Maguire. Kick the ball in the net.
Listen, I'm still sentimental, so I'd give it to Solskjaer. But what do you two boys reckon?
Go on, Beanie.
Yeah, I think Ten Hag has got away with it massively this season. It's always the players' fault. It's the Glazers' fault. I think he's got away with it massively. I think he'll be gone by the summer. But man, who do you get in? I mean, I've seen today Southgate, De Zerbi, Thomas Frank. I don't know. I don't think there's any outstanding candidate, which I think is a massive issue. There isn't the obvious one that you go out there and get.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Gareth Southgate is making me want to cry slightly.
The one I've always said for Man United. The one I've always said for Man United is Simeone from Atletico Madrid. I've always felt like he would have been the answer for Man United, Simeone, because he's no crap, no thingy. I don't know if you like him, but I just thought Simeone.
His football's shocking though. Like,
yeah, but I think he would
terrible.
have won you something. I honestly do believe.
Yeah, but Mourinho did that, and I couldn't live with that. So my issue is the same as Andy's. There's just nobody out there that jumps off the page that possibly could come in and do what we think they're going to do. I'd be the same as Barry. Sentimental reason, I think Solskjaer should be given a fair crack at the thingy, but I would keep Ten Hag in charge and see what happens in the summer with the new structure, let's say. But I genuinely think if we don't start to perform in the league in terms of at least fifth and we get knocked out of the FA Cup, I think he's gone anyway. I don't think there'll be any saving him.
If Liverpool take us, I think he'll go.
Yeah, you have the Bayern Munich manager, the one that's getting the sack. What's his name? The old Chelsea one.
Thomas Tuchel.
Tuchel, yeah. Would you have him?
No.
No.
That man thinks that Kim, whatever his name is not as good as Kieran Dyer. So that's an issue right there straight away.
Not
Kieran Dyer, Eric Dyer. But Yeah, there's just not many managers out there, and all the good managers look like they're being fast tracked to other clubs because the other clubs are run better, and it's already the wheels are already in motion. So we're lagging behind. I just don't want De Zerbi. Like
Graham Potter?
I come out with the biggest crap ever sometimes, and I get crap for it on my channel, but it's good because you want to have a laugh. I think the new up and coming manager. I'll get grilled for this because I shouldn't say O'Neill. I think he's quite good.
I genuinely agree. We had a Wolves fan on a few shows ago, and
he's undercover.
The praise we had for McNeil was I saw him on that Monday Night Football, and when he was talking tactics, I was like, this guy knows what he's talking about. And you look at Wolves, he's raised the level of some of the players, and not a lot of managers are capable of doing that. And that's what Man United need. They need a manager that's going to raise the levels. But if you said Gary O'Neill is taking over Man United tomorrow, this fan base would have a fucking meltdown.
Yeah, they would. But when I watched him
honestly,
I watched Gary O'Neill for Bournemouth. I watched Gary O'Neill for Bournemouth, and they was good. And I couldn't believe they got rid of him. And then I looked at Wolves' team, like you said, and I seen Dawson. That I thought these are going to be crap. These are going to get relegated. He sorted them out like that.
Yeah, he's got
when I watch him, he's got the iPad at the halfway line, and he's massively tactical. And I'm telling you, Gary O'Neill will be like an Arteta. He knows his stuff. He's secretly undercover, really clever football up and coming manager. And I think he'll be
football brain.
Yeah, he's got the brain.
We're going to tweet
get grilled for that, by the way. Look at Barry's face. Barry's like,
I'm just sitting there thinking, I'm thinking the same thing as Dan. And what I'm thinking is that if we tweet that, we're probably going to lose about 500 of our followers.
Don't tweet it.
It's like, we can't be serious. But,
I'm definitely tweeting that at some point.
I think people do get underestimated. And the fact that there are no outstanding candidates just goes to show that maybe you do need to go for someone, I don't know, a bit more PE teacherish. If that's what we're going for. Because actually, PE teachers do know what they're talking about too. Listen, I've really enjoyed tonight. It's been superb. The time has flown by even. Thank you very much, Dan, for joining us. Dan, on the off chance that there's any Everton fans that have tuned in to have a listen to what's being said, or indeed if there's any Manchester United fans who just want to go and listen to somebody else yak on instead of us, where can people find you?
Yeah, so just type in Toffee Bluecast on Twitter. We've been going for one season, and we've got like 600 subscribers already. We've got like ex-footballers coming on and stuff like that. So we're really going pretty well for saying we've only been going one season. So we want to get to 1,000 really quick and crack on. But we're a good Everton channel. I'm proud of what we're doing. Toffee Bluecast, type it in, get on it. And we always do, like you, we do have an opposition fan on as well. So don't just think, you can only be an Everton fan as a subscriber, because when we play Man United, you will get a Man United fan on our channel every time we play you. And I've got a fan for every single team in the Premier League that comes on. So get behind us, Toffee Bluecast. And it's been cracking coming on, mate. Thanks for having me on. I know it was last minute, but I've come on for you, and it's been a good show, mate. Cracking. I've enjoyed it.
Well, it's been brilliant to have you on. Thank you very much. And like I say, opposition fans, they do just make it a much better experience. I think when you preview and everything, it just gives that little
marching down the Goodison Road. Oh, that window's open wide.
Well, I've changed my mind. It's terrible having opposition fans on.
Find the mute one.
But yeah, no, that's brilliant. And Andy and Dan, of course, thank you both for joining us as well. It's going to be a big one. Like we say, it's a huge game coming up. It's coming up on Saturday. It's nice and early. So as Andy's already said, it's either going to be
don't lose
your d'oeuvre to your weekend, or it's going to be the horror show of the weekend. We'll wait and see exactly how it works. He reckons 2-1. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. It's been a blast. We'll see you on Saturday, whatever happens, to go through it all again.
Come on.
Night all.